we have your weekend Apple news. Oh yeah, and a few tech sales. Welcome back to the channel. You know what we do on the weekends. We normally go through about 20 or 25 different Apple-related news stories. Today's a little bit different. I don't have my beard today. I'm going to be doing some traveling. Today I'm going to go through some early Prime Day sales, see what's out there as far as sales, and then also I'm going to go through, I think I have about 10 or 15 Apple stories at the end. So look in the timeline. You can go ahead and skip ahead if you want to just go directly to the Apple news. But first, I'm going to go through some early Prime Day sales, kind of a precursor for what's coming up next month on the 7th and the 8th. I'll have a video then for all the tech sales. So sit back and relax, and let's get in to the video. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at some of these tech sales. Nothing's mind-blowing, but it's going to save you a little bit of cash. Right over here. This is on Amazon. I'll have links to all this in the video description as well. On Amazon, they have all their kind of, these little fine-woven wallets that you can connect to your brand new iPhones. They're all on sale. They're all 10% off right now. Still cheaper than if you buy them from Apple. So definitely check out the link. You can get that for 10% off. Why not do it, right? Usually $60, $52.99. If you scroll down here to all of their cases, basically for all of their different versions of phones, the iPhone standard 17s here, the iPhone 17 Pros, all their cases are like between, I think they're all around 10% off right now. You're going to save $8 or $10 on these things, but just look at all these different things in here, including some of the accessories have some big, obviously like AirTags is only $74, 24% off. So just definitely take a look at that. I'll have a link to this page here in the description so you can go ahead and check all this out. But let's keep moving with some more tech deals. Okay, this one I'm just going to show you again because it's still on sale and still a really good deal. Here we go. This is the M4 MacBook Pro with the M4 chip, and it's a standard version, 16 gigs, 512, but right now it's 300% off, 19% off, which you don't get from Apple too often. I don't think this is going to stay like this forever, so it's $15.99. It's only $12.99 right now, and that's, again, the Pro version of the M4, the newest version. Obviously, it's not the Pro chip, but it's the M4 chip, and you get the better screen, you get the ports. You can't complain for $12.99. What else do we have here? This is actually the Apple iPhone 16 Pro, US version here, unlocked. Take a look at this. Remember, renewed premium means it's basically new from Apple refurbished. Usually they send it in that little white box, but obviously read the reviews. It's not a guarantee. It's only going to have a couple cycles at most on it though. So you get this, it says $929, but this is the 512 gigabyte version of the iPhone 16 Pro. Now, it says it was $998. That means that the used version was. So this is not only 6% off. If you buy this from Apple with the 512 gigabyte version, I think it's like $1,300 or $1,400 right now if you get the iPhone 17 Pro with that much space. So if you look at this, you're going to save $300 or $400 by getting the 16 Pro here with 512 gigabytes. It could totally be worth it considering this is only going to have like 5 cycles or less on it. It's just about brand new, a pretty good product. All right, let's keep going here. We're going to rifle through all these things really quickly. They got the AirTags here. I believe some new ones are coming out soon, so they got these on sale as well. Amazon has them on 25% off right now. So if you want to pick one up, $21.75. I think that is a low price alert. I don't think I've ever seen it for less money than that. You guys post in the comments if you have. I haven't. For this next product, I kind of lied to you because it's not from Amazon, but Amazon owns this company, so technically it is. Right over here, Woot. Take a look at this deal. This is the Apple 16.2 inch, so it's a 16-inch M3 Max, MAX, but the M3 Max. See that right there? $21.99. You're going to say, well, that doesn't seem that great. Well, it is. Look at this. 36 gigs of RAM, upgraded 1 terabyte SSD with the M3 Max chip and the 16-inch for $2,199 from Woot, and it's brand new. Look at new brown box, but it's still brand new condition. So it's not used, not refurbished. I think that's actually a great deal on Woot. I'll have a link in the description. Another couple good deals here. Well, let's keep going. We have some other tech products, including Apple products, and then we're going to get into the news, all right? The next product over here, here's the 15-inch laptop here. This is the M3 chip, all right? So not the M4, but the M3. But you get upgraded 24 gigabytes. So you get an upgraded RAM here, and you also get upgraded SSD at 512. This is $11.99, so usually $16.99. That's still close to 30% off right now. A great deal. I would actually get this over like the 15-inch normally, the M4 version, if you just get the standard version. Pay a little bit extra, get all this extra RAM, all the extra storage, and you'll thank me later. All right, I'm going to be reviewing this product. Hold on one second. Okay, I'm back now because I wanted to prove to you that I have it sitting right here. This is the product that I'm going to review soon, but I think it's an incredible deal. Take a look over here. Now, this is not a Mac related, but here we go. This is going to be the Hyper H2 mini gaming PC. Look at this thing. So it's got an i9 in it, 1190H. That's pretty incredible. i9. It's got 32 gigs of RAM, 1 terabyte SSD, and it comes with Office Home. $459, usually not, what is it? Usually $839, 45% off right now. You can't beat that deal, can you? I'm going to go ahead and review that. It's going to take me a while because I'm going to be traveling a little bit, but when I get back, maybe sometime in October, I'm going to show you a little bit more about that computer there, just in case you want a system that, obviously you have your Mac and maybe you want an extra Windows computer for maybe doing some other stuff. This could be a good option. All right, what do we have over here? This one's okay. It's still on sale at $9.99. I believe this is the 15-inch laptop, the base level M4 Air, 16 gigs, 256. That's still $200 off. I believe the other one's still $7.99. The actual, the smaller one, the 13-inch is only $7.99 as well. So again, they keep begging you to buy that thing. So if you're thinking about it, you may not get it in the future. All right. Couple of SSD. Well, we have an SSD enclosure. I think this is a good cost on this one right here. Here's the Ugreen 40 gigabit per second M.2 NVMe enclosure. So again, you're going to be able to get like 3,200 megabytes per second, depending on your hard drive as far as reads and writes on here. SSD not included, of course. This is 36% off. It's $69.98 right now. And we talked about this one before. It's got really high ratings, and it's basically a big full thing of metal. It cools it fairly well. It's passive cooling in there. But overall, that thing's had no problems. I think it's done really well. This next system over here is kind of a cool product. So let's say you want an external monitor that take with you to your friend's house or something, or just a side when you're working, maybe maybe go to to a hotel or something, and you have to go to an office somewhere else. You want to bring an extra monitor, but a little bit bigger. Take a look at this. This is the portable monitor, 23.8 inch. So it's not like a 16-inch one. It's a lot bigger, 100 hertz. It is only 1080p, but at that size, you'll still be okay, I believe. It's 24% off. Now it's $189, down from $250. And you can see the picture of it there. Let me actually scroll down here and show you kind of what it's all about. You can see people setting it up next to their work here. This guy's bringing it gaming with them. But the real claim to fame is right here. It actually folds up like this, so you can actually bring it with you and walk around with it like that, obviously. And then when you want to set it up maybe at a friend's house or maybe somewhere downstairs, if you want to do a little work in front of the TV, you can go ahead, just bring this down, hook it up, and there you go. So I think that's a kind of a cool deal in that monitor. And, it is what it is, right? All right, next. I always say don't buy those little flash drives because they're terrible. They're just way too slow. This is kind of in between somewhere, and it's a good price right here. Here's a Samsung Bar Plus. It's 256 gigs, around 400 megabyte per second on the reads. I believe the writes are going to be a little bit slower, around 150, but still, it's way faster than a flash drive. And it's down to $19, 39% off, usually $32, $33. That's a good price on that product right there. All right. Next thing here, maybe you don't want to get a full iPad. You just don't have the money for it, but you want to take some notes for school or maybe for work. Here we go. I actually recommend this one. This is a Samsung Galaxy Tab 6 Lite. This is last year's model, so it's going to make it a little bit cheaper, but it is a good size, 10.4 inches, 64 gigs, and $209. Usually $329, so that's 36% off right now. And it comes with, let me just see here if it says it in here. It says it in here somewhere, but it comes with the pen in here. You can see it in here. So you're going to get that pen right there. And that's kind of a, actually it says it right here, the S Pen for note-taking as well, right there. See it? So just that alone is worth quite a bit of money. So you might as well pick that up. For $209, I think it's a really good deal. All right, power stations. Maybe you want to power your house. Here's one right here that's incredible. This is the Anker Solix F3000, all right? Why is this so good? 3,072 watt hours, 6,000 up to 6,000 watt recharging. This is going to be almost half, well, it's 42% off, usually $2,500, $1,499 right now. Awesome price on a 3,000 watt hour battery. That's enough to power your house for like a day and a half. You can plug your fridge into this thing. You can plug, let's say you had a power outage and you just needed to watch your TV, you needed lights, you needed your fridge. Like I said, this would handle it if you had this charged up. So 3,000 watt hours is a big beast there. I recommend that one for the money. All right, external storage, but maybe you don't want to build your own this time. Right over here, we got the Lexer ES3 1 terabyte SSD, and you can see up to about 1,000 megabytes per second. Realistically, you're going to get about 900, really fast still. 4.6 out of 5, down to $71.99, usually about $80. But I just think this is kind of a cool design in here. Really slim, looks really nice. So anyways, I recommend that one. That was actually a good one. What else do we got here? Now, I actually did a bunch of reviews on this actual product on my channel. If you were thinking about it before, the price is too good to beat right now. Take a look at this. This is the RayQ Mac Mini M4 dock and stand. So you can see it here. Obviously, it's this little dock down here. It's got like an SD card reader in there and 2 USB-A's in there. Got a couple extra ports, but the claim to fame of this is it does have an SSD enclosure as well built in, and I think it's 10 gigabit. Yeah, this model is. So you're going to get, like, again, about 900 megabytes per second, but you could put an M.2 in there right below it and have the SD card reader, all that stuff. And look at the price. It's all the way down to $47.99. It used to be around $60. It actually used to be around $100 when it launched. Now it's $47.99. So that's a good price there. Another thing here too, so if you do want to build your own external storage, those little size ones are called 2230s, all right? They're little SSD drives and they're M.2s. They're great because you can then throw them in your pocket and stuff. So if you want to build your own, here's one of the cheapest I've seen for a 1 terabyte. Here's the Kingston NV3 right here, 1 terabyte M.2, and the size you're looking for is right here. 67 bucks, usually 80 bucks. That's still really cheap for that drive. And then you just kind of pair it with something like this. Let me actually see if I can find it here. Here's the Sabrent right here, USB-C enclosure. So you pair it with something like this. This one's only $16, so that's 15% off right now. You pair that back with this drive over here, and what is that, $67 plus you add, what, 16 bucks to it, and you're gonna have a 1 terabyte SS drive like this up to about 1,000 megabytes per second that you can change out if you want to in your pocket anytime you want. So cool device for sure. All right, what about AirPods? Let's say you don't want to spend 200, 150 bucks or something like that. And you want it still to kind of be from Apple, take a look. I'd recommend these. Here's the Beats Studio Buds right here. And you can see they're usually 150 bucks. They're $79.95 right now, especially the colors. They have some cool colors. I mean, obviously they just have white, but they have that red color. If you want something different there, that's cool for 79 bucks. Again, it's going to work perfectly with your Apple phone. If you need to charge your Apple phone because it loses battery all the time, maybe you bought that slim version. It just doesn't have enough, even though it's doing pretty good from the tests. Buy something like this right over here. Here's the Flow Mini 2 portable charger with built-in cable. So basically, this is about 20 bucks. It's 31% off right now, and they say it's a 5,000 milliamp battery that you attach directly to the bottom of your phone like this. You can see how the girl here has it on her phone and attaches right to the bottom of your phone. And you go ahead and have 5,000 milliamp battery on here. Now, granted, they said because of the way it charges and stuff, you might be able to get about 1 extra charge from it. But you don't have to actually have it, disconnected while you're using your phone. Since it's connected like that, you can actually hold it up to your face, have the battery on it, and still use it. So I think that's a really good design there for the cost, especially for such an inexpensive product. Okay, maybe you want to upgrade to a 4K screen. You want one that's not going to break the bank. Here's one over here. It's not bad. This is the Asus 27-inch 4K business monitor, and you can see it's 4K resolution here. This was about 300 bucks. It's down 27% to $219 right now, and it's the resolution you can see right in here. So it's going to be good. It'll be okay with Macs because obviously the scaling might be a little bit off, but I deal with them all the time. I use 4K all the time, and for PCs it's going to be perfect as well. You can't complain there. All right, that's just kind of my precursor to some of the sales coming up in October. Let's transition right now. We're going to get more into the Apple news. So if you're here for the Apple news, it's going to start right now. Okay, story number one is just an interesting story if you have an iPhone, because all these things they tell you about charging your iPhone and how long it's going to last doesn't really matter. Over here, so it says iPhone 16 Pro Max 80% charge limit. 1 year later, was it worth it? Actually, this guy actually did it for 2 years. He actually tested it where he set it so that it only went up to 80%. He also said that he only let it drop to no less than 15%, and he wanted to see if that actually helped the phone. Well, what are some of the data we found? Now, what he did is a couple things. So just keep in mind this is only one person's data. He had an iPhone 15 Pro Max, and he said it has 352 cycles. And it says its capacity is at 88% now, down from 94% back in September. So it's down to 88%. And he's followed all the ways to do it, the correct ways to charge your phone. Then he said he bought an iPhone 16 Pro Max here. And right now it's at 95%, he said about a week ago, and then maybe down to 94%. So he's around that area now on this. And he's been doing the same thing with this for about a year. But he says, I've now had my data for 2 years on my iPhone, limited to 80% charge, and I don't think it's been worth it. My coworker, who also has a 16 Pro Max, did not have an 80% charge limit set, and his battery capacity is 96% with 308 charge cycles. You can see here, this guy on his phone had similar charge cycles, and he actually had one less than this guy. So, it's only one data point, but it goes to show you, he went through all the trouble of setting at 20%, setting it at 15% as far as the low, and then dealing with all that stuff. And this other guy actually is, excelled over him. One test again, obviously they could be doing different things with the phone. They could maybe going into cold and going outside in the sun more and getting it heated up more and stuff like that. That could affect the battery. But still, at the end of the day, you got to understand, it's just not worth it to worry about it. Use the phone, get rid of it, change it every 3 or 4 years. That's the best way. Okay, for story number two, a lot of people are waiting for the foldable iPhone, all right? So let's talk about it for a second. Right over here, Mac Rumors. It says foldable iPhone like 2 titanium iPhone Airs joined at the hinge. So it's important that you read that statement because the iPhone Air isn't really, the more I think about it, it's not really going to be a product they expect to sell a ton of, but they had to make the iPhone Air in order to make this foldable phone because they had to test it out, right? So you're kind of the guinea pig for them as far as the foldable phone. So it says next year's rumored foldable phone will showcase an ultra-thin design resembling two titanium iPhone Airs side by side, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. So imagine two Airs combined there. And it's kind of important to think about. So this is kind of why Apple did it. It's not so much to be the thinnest, but when they're going to do this foldable, they need it all that stuff to be in that little compartment there. They need to be able to know how to do that, and that's how they're going to do it. So it's good. So far, it's worked really well for them. So let's go on. It says, let's just keep moving because this is important. It says next year's iPhone Fold could be much thinner than the iPhone Air. So that's even some surprising things. So obviously, when they have two parts to it, right? People will say, well, they get two sides to put the stuff in, so why do they need it so thin? Well, they want it to be ultra thin, and they want it to, when it's folded, obviously, to be as thin is basically a normal iPhone. And that's going to be the hard part. So they do need to get this thinner. So how thin is it going to actually get? This is the key here. So if you look at this little chart down here, here's the iPhone 17, 7.95 millimeters. The iPhone Air is 5.64 millimeters. See that right there? The iPhone folded down here is going to be a lot, obviously, but look at the unfolded here, 4.5 to 4.8 millimeters. See it right there? And let's go back up here, 5.64. So it's going to be that much thinner, supposedly, than the iPhone Air. So imagine that. They got to get that thing down so thin because they're going to spread out the components that it matters the testing that's going on right now. And I think that's kind of the key here. It's just important to note. Okay, so if that piques your interest on the iPhone Fold, here are 5 features that are coming with it right over here. It says iPhone Fold is coming 5 new features for next year's launch. And you can see a little picture of it right here. Obviously, it's going to be thinner than that, I think. That's a kind of a bad photo. It's going to have a 7.8-inch inner display, a 5.5-inch outer display. They're showing basically an iPad mini here because it's going to basically be that size when it's folded open. So think about an iPad mini. It's going to be that big as far as the screen right there. That's feature 1. That's going to have a crease-free book fold design, all right? So it's going to be completely crease-free book fold design. Obviously, they're showing you it here. We knew that, obviously, coming in. Here's kind of a new one. 4 cameras total. It's going to have 2 rear cameras, 1 front camera when folded, 1 front camera when unfolded. So it has to have 4 different cameras built into this thing. I think 3 cameras are on the actual Pro models and stuff like that. This is going to have 4. This is going to drive the cost up. Obviously, we're going to obviously see some high cost here. We're talking, I think, $2,500. It's going to be expensive for sure. This next one surprised me the most. It says Touch ID instead of Face ID. I had to read this a couple times. It says Apple's flagship phones have long included Face ID, dating back to the iPhone X. Even though the iPhone Fold is expected to have an ultra premium price, it's rumored to use Touch ID for authentication. That is pretty crazy, right? So let's just kind of scroll down here. It says Apple might simply be trying to avoid including 2 sets of Face ID components, one for the outer display, another one for the inner one. Cost could be a factor, but more likely space and constraints are the primary issue here on the phone. So think about that for a second. It may actually step back in one thing, all that cost, and you're going to get no Face ID. We'll see if that actually comes. I can't believe they're going to do that, but we'll see. The next thing they have down here is the titanium design. Supposedly it will have one, which is weird because I think the metal or the steel actually, aluminum or whatever they use, actually works better for thermals. But they're saying titanium probably because they don't want it to bend, obviously, with the bend gates and stuff. So they got to do that. And then what else is there? I guess that's about it right now. So there's a couple other little ones in there, but that's the most important ones. Anyways, that's enough on the iPhone Fold. We're going to see that hopefully, late next year, somewhere in that range. You never know, though. Okay, so everyone knows obviously by now that the iPhones just launched about 2 weeks ago, the iPhone 17 lineup. What is the star of the show? What are the people buying the most? Well, surprisingly, it's right over here. It says Apple boosts iPhone 17 production targets following strong pre-order demand, and you can see a picture. We're talking the standard iPhone 17, not the Pros or anything like that. So it says right here, earlier this week, Apple asked Luxshare Precision, one of 2 main phone assemblers in China, in addition to Foxconn, to raise daily production of the standard iPhone 17 by around 40%, 2 people said. The company also told suppliers of non-electrical parts that model to increase the daily output by roughly 30%. So between 30 and 40%, it's going to actually be going up here, more than they actually thought. They're increasing the production of this. Now, this is pretty crazy, right? In the past, it was like 60% Pro models were bought and the 40% here, but we think this is changing because it got so good. So they go on to say that the shift suggests more consumers than Apple expected opted to buy the cheaper iPhone 17 models, which retails for $799 rather than the Premium Pro for $1,099. You can see the cost difference there. So it's a little bit different it's a different process for Apple because Apple's used to getting the higher end models. Here, they might have shot themselves in the foot because everyone sees the value in the iPhone 17. So if you're thinking about, definitely check out the 17 over the Pro models now because there's not that much of a difference unless you really want the best cameras, then maybe go with the Pros. Okay, so if you use Apple CarPlay, there's one feature that a lot of people are talking about right now in basically iOS 26 that's really a game changer right over here. Okay, 9 to 5 Mac. This iOS 26 change makes CarPlay even better. And you can see a nice picture here of CarPlay. But let's just cut to the chase down here. It says there's one big change, however, that's going viral as a way to make your CarPlay screen feel bigger, larger, bigger, whatever you want to call it. Apple says this new Smart Display zoom option is designed to help CarPlay better adapt to the various shapes and sizes of in-screen cars, or car screens, basically. You can see it there. So look for this Smart Display zoom option. You can look it up on Google there. Vehicle screens come in many shapes and sizes. In iOS 26, some screen configurations allow users to adjust their display to scale with Smart Display Zoom configurable in settings in CarPlay. So remember that, right? So what does it do? So imagine here. So here we go. Here's your default zoom. See this little thing right here, CarPlay? And let's just say this is your default zoom. When you actually do this, it's going to make the maps way bigger here, and it's going to make these other apps a lot smaller. So the map got bigger. And if we kind of go through all this stuff, there's your original zoom. Now it's going to be able to fit all of your icons on it like that instead of having some of them go off the screen there. See that? And then, this just goes on and on. So there's your clock, down here. But now you can actually get a lot more information on here because it's going to be able to have more information than just that, right? It's got two things now. So if you go down here, here's all your messages. You go down here, you have a lot more messages. So just things, it's really simple. Here's your information about your song. Over here, same thing. Not much changed here, but you get a larger picture there you can see. Other things like this might be more useful. What is this one? Here's the default zoom for your home screen, and then down here you get so much more. It's basically going to give you more of everything, right? That's all there is to it. So look up that feature. I think it's pretty cool. If you have CarPlay, if you use CarPlay, and search for it and to make the setting change. Okay, so if you have an iPad Air or an iPad Pro or anything like that, and you're kind of stuck with buying a $350 keyboard from Apple, there's one more option, at least right here, when I want to show you, that you might want to consider. So it just came out. Mac Rumors. It says Zag launches Pro Keys Connect iPad keyboard case. See this right here? And you can see a picture of it here. They tend to make pretty good stuff here. I'll have a link again to this. You can basically just look up Pro Keys Connect and go to the Zag's website. But if you scroll down here, prices range from $130 to $150, and the Zags Pro Keys Connect can be purchased starting today. So you can see there, so $130 to $150 versus like around $250 to $350 for the Apple keyboards. So if you're kind of tight on money, always look for another product like this. They usually tend to do fairly well. They're not going to be as good as Apple. They never are, right? But I think for a lot of people, they'll be good enough. Okay, there's always something with Apple iPhones when they launch or any Apple product, and we have this kind of scratch gate thing now where they're saying that the iPhones are getting all scratched up. So take a look over here, Mac Rumors. It says Apple blames in-store MagSafe chargers for iPhone 17 Pro display model scratches. So I showed you before there's little scratches, in some of the phones. I don't think it's in this it's not in this article, but they had some scratches on them. So it says that the marks on the iPhone 17 Pro models that people have noticed that Apple retail stores are caused by the chargers that Apple uses. And Apple says that it's not actually scratching it, but it's really just kind of coming off some of the material and making it look like a scratch. They're saying that you can possibly get it off. Now, is that true or is that not true? Well, they went through some testing, and there's one part on the phone, especially the Pro models, that's the most susceptible, basically it's the easiest place to scratch, all right? And what is it? Let's take a look. Okay, in this article called Mac Rumors, it says iPhone 17 Pro teardown reveals Apple's new approach to thermal management and repairs. All right, so this is from iFixit. Don't worry about that. Well, what I want to show you is down here. You can see this little, kind of gouge here. This is a really close-up shot of the orange iPhone Pro model there, and you can definitely see it there. So iFixit conducted a scratch test on the iPhone 17 Pro's aluminum frame and found that the camera plateau to be the area that's prone to scratching. See it right there? This guy said that the damage is called spalling. The sharp flat edge of the camera plateau doesn't allow basically for the finish to adhere as well, so the color can rub off when exposed to hard objects like keys. So just keep in mind that up here, this is the camera bump over here, especially around these edges over here and throughout this thing, this is where you're going to get the scratching more or less. That's what they're actually saying via their testing. So just be careful. So if you have a case that doesn't protect that area, that's the area that might scratch the most. So you got to be careful and get a case that kind of protects that. Otherwise, just be careful overall. Okay, so I do think people always ask me, should I get the iPhone 16 or should I get the iPhone 17? I think there's enough good stuff with the iPhone 17 to pick it up over the 16 for sure, even with a good price drop, all right? And here's why. Take a look. This is from Apple Insider. So here's the iPhone 17s, here's the 16s. The price stayed the same, all right? Now you get a bigger dimension phone here, so we're going to get weight's going to be a little bit heavier here, 6.24, 6 ounces. So it's going to be a little bit bigger as far as dimensions on the iPhone 17 and the weight of it. But you do get an A19 chip, obviously, versus the A18 A16 chip. You also get a 6.3-inch screen versus a 6.1-inch screen. But the key here is you get 3000 max right there of brightness, nits of max brightness. And over here, you only get 2,000 nits of max brightness. That's a big difference there. The resolutions are a little bit different, but the PPI is the same, so don't worry about that. But as we scroll down, you're obviously going to get, better cameras as well. You get a 48 megapixel ultra wide versus the 12 megapixel ultra wide. There's a big, difference there as well. You also get a little bit more stuff with the video recording and stuff like that. And you also get 30 hours versus 22 hours. This could be the main kicker right here. But even beyond all this, you also get, and think about it, you also get the additional storage as well, 256 versus 128. So when you add all this up, it just, if it's within $100, I say get the 17. If it's $200 less for the 16, you might want to consider it, especially if you're on a budget. But I would say $200 is kind of the safe point. Okay, if you're one of those people that are worried about global warming all the time and you're always afraid of that, this could be for you, all right? So take a look over here, 9 to 5 Mac. I just like these are kind of cool products. Logitech launches a new solar-powered slim wireless keyboard for Mac users. So it's got all the Mac keys in it, and it's called, let me just see here, Logitech, I don't know exactly the name here, it says right here, Signature Slim Solar Plus K980 keyboard. You can see it there. I was reading about it. It's $99 right here. It's got this little panel here. So what it does is it takes light from not just natural light, but it takes light from like the lights in your room and everything, and it charges this thing up. And it says basically let me just see if I can find it in here. It says it'll also last up to 4 months in complete darkness, just in case that ends up being a concern. So basically, once it's charged, it'll last 4 months in complete darkness. But this actually takes light just from your lights in your room. It doesn't even have a charging cable. There's no way to charge it besides solar. So you leave it in your desk, and just having your lights on in your room are going to charge this thing supposedly. Or if you have a window, obviously a lot quicker. And then once it's charged, it can last 4 months with no light. But it doesn't even have a charging port in it. $99. So if you want to save the environment, this one's for you. Okay, for this next article, if you actually like using third-party watches with your iPhone and you're kind of worried that you can never really do that, it might get a little bit easier for you. This is good news over here. So it says right here, Apple could make it easier to use third-party smartwatches with iOS 26 from Apple Insider. And they're showing the Pebble Watch here. But we're going to scroll down a little bit here. So it says Apple is allegedly working to make the iPhone work better with third-party smartwatches according to code in iOS 26.1 developer. So in part, basically, due to being it's so deeply integrated with each other, basically the Apple Watch and the iPhone, an Apple software feature spotted in iOS 26 becomes a reality, users may find that they have an easier time working with third-party timepieces. According to a code snippet seen by Macworld, iOS 26 Beta 1 has unreleased feature referred to as notification forwarding. This feature basically controls whether notifications from the iPhone could be displayed on another Apple device. See right there? So long story short, we think it's coming. We see it in the code. We just haven't been fully implemented. It's in the actual developer code right now, and where you can actually send all of your notifications to third-party devices and third-party watches and stuff like that, not just Apple ecosystems. That's actually pretty cool. They're probably being forced kind of to do this from Europe and stuff, so it might help everyone overall. Pretty good idea. Okay, so I always keep talking about Apple Arcade as well. It's $6.99 a month. You get about 120 different games. You can play as much as you want. They keep adding games. A lot of times they're kids' games and stuff like that, but every once in a while they have a game that's worth it. I think there's one right here. You can see right here, this is from Mac Rumors. This is Apple Arcade adding 4 games next month, including NBA 2K26. And here we go. We can see the picture right here. This is the game I'm talking about. So if you scroll down, you can kind of scroll in on this image here. This game will be actually really cool, really good graphics, and it's a sports game. I think a lot of people like sports games. There's not a ton on Apple Arcade that are actually any good. This one's going to be pretty good, and it's the arcade version of this game, so it's going to be very playable. You're not going to, if you haven't played these before, this will be pretty easy. Just get like a Microsoft controller with Wi-Fi. You can connect right to your Mac if you want to, and I recommend that. The other games in here, they had some other games they listed, and they were all just kind of kids games in here. I can't even, they have I actually have a dominoes game, which actually looks pretty cool. So, I mean, if you're into dominoes and stuff like that, it might be a good game for you. I'm not usually into that kind of stuff, but anyways, you get the idea. If you are, maybe check it out. But the other 2 games are all just kid games, and like I said, here's the dominoes game here again. You can see dominoes, classic, the game, whatever. So, I mean, how bad could that be, right? I mean, it's better than taking out a box on a plane or something and trying to play in front of you. This is better. Okay, so good news if you're an Apple investor. Now, don't take my advice. I'm not giving you any financial advice here at all. Just reading an article to you. But anyways, with the iPhone 17 doing so well, some of the people are thinking the stock might go up. Take a look. iPhone 17 boom inspires investors. So Wedbush hikes Apple target to $310 per share. I don't know what it's at right now, like in maybe the high 280s or something. Still, $310 is a pretty good increase there. Of course, do everything at your own risk, because every time I buy a stock, the thing plummets. So I don't usually do it. You guys tell me if you have the same problem. Seems like all the all the rich people know exactly when to do it somehow. It's very, very curious to me, but they always know how. Anyways, do it at your own risk. But it's still good news for Apple. Everything's going good for them right now. People like the products, and at the end of the day, we're waiting for these MacBooks, right? Are they going to come out this year? Or are they going to come out the early next year? And we'll see how the M5s are. I think the M6's MacBooks are going to be the special sauce. We have to wait maybe a year for those, but still really cool. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. I'm going to be skipping the news next week, I believe, the Apple news, just because I may be doing some traveling. It'll come back in 2 weeks from now. We'll talk to everybody in the near future. Peace.